generally seems highly descriptive about what Jesus taught and did. And by the way, we did a course together on the Gospel of Luke, and it was amazing how much is recorded there about what Jesus said and did. Why the relative silence, do you think, about the period between the resurrection and Pentecost? We don't have many clues about what Jesus was up to during that time or what he talked about with the disciples. It seems uncharacteristic of Luke to leave something out unless the disciples were specifically instructed not to say. What do you
I think it's interesting. When a great scholar who was the teacher of my teacher, a man called C.H. Dodd, who was quite liberal in his views of some bits of the New Testament, a great scholar of other bits, he wrote a book on the use of the Old Testament and the New. And he went right through book by book and pointed out that there are certain key texts which occur again and again and again, like Psalm 110, like Psalm 2, like 2 Samuel 7, like Isaiah 53. And they seem to occur right across, whether it's 1 Peter or Revelation or Paul or Matthew, wherever. And Dodd, almost naively, I think it was with a twinkle in his eye, says, it looks as though in the very early church there was some great teacher expounding scripture in a particular way, which then got into the DNA of all the different bits of Christianity. And then he says, it looks as though scripture tells us that we know who that teacher was. In other words, if you want to know what Jesus was doing, he was expounding scripture. At the end of Luke's Gospel, Luke says, open their minds to understand the scriptures. And again, he'd done that on the road to Emmaus. They were knocked sideways by that. So he does it again, he does it again. And I think, so when Acts says, during the 40 days between Easter and Pentecost, Easter and the Ascension, Jesus is talking about the kingdom of God. And if you're talking about the kingdom of God, you would be talking about scripture, because we're talking about the Psalms and the prophets and so on, and about the entire project from Genesis onwards, and about how that now has funneled down onto this extraordinary moment. And you're drawing on all those scriptures. So I think that's the primary content, is Jesus explaining to them, this is not an outlandish thing, it is in fact what the scriptures have said. So when then in Acts we see them, like Peter on the day of Pentecost, drawing out the meaning of those psalms and so on, I think we can conclude that it wasn't just that Peter had been doing his own new homework, this was the stuff that Jesus himself had been teaching.
Well, related to that, Tom, we see at times the disciples, even in the book of Acts, being confused about what's going on, and much like the two on the road to Emmaus, what do you make of that? Had it now suddenly become clear to them, and they seem to not get it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know who asked that question, but I'm not sure how seasoned you are as a pastor. If you imagine that because you have preached on a particular topic a couple of times, everybody in your congregation has now got it and is letting that forget.
Human nature, is that what you're saying?
We're all the same, the natural frailty of human beings. It's partly that we forget things, it's partly that we don't always pay close attention, but it's partly that when faced with a whole new paradigm, we can hold it in our minds for a moment, and then when we go out of the room or wake up the next morning, our minds flick back into the paradigm they had before. This is a well-known phenomenon among those of us who've been university lecturers, where a student will say, while I was listening to the lecture, it all made sense, but as soon as I went out the door, suddenly I went back to thinking there was another thing. And so I think, as in the Gospels, Jesus is telling people, he's telling them again, there's a parable about a seed growing secretly, there's another parable about the tree that might be cut down, getting the same thing from several different angles again and again. So it doesn't surprise me that they weren't getting it. And particularly, as we'll see when we get to Acts 15, about the inclusion of Gentiles into the Jesus followers community, but without being circumcised. Jesus himself had said, many will come from east and west and sit down at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jesus himself had said that it isn't what goes into you that defiles you, it's what comes out of you that defiles you. And Mark says, thereby making all foods clean. But they're still obsessing about clean and unclean foods and clean and unclean people. Haven't they got it? Well, no, these things take time to filter through until eventually the new paradigm makes itself known. And in a sense, what we're watching in Acts is watching that process go on.